Good morning. I hope you're having a good day so far. Today for me is Monday. No, it's not Monday. It's Sunday, Sunday the 3rd of March. And for you, it's Monday morning or whenever you happen to watch this video. So today, this week, what I wanted to talk about in Embrace the Humanness is health. And in the email, I put a quote in that says that health is a law of nature. And this quote is by a gentleman by the name of Dr. Sten Ekberg. And I put a link in the email so that you could check out his YouTube channel if you want to. He's got a ton of videos out there that, all different types of topics that may or may not be helpful for you. So if you like checking it out, go for it. But the thing I love about that particular quote, and I actually heard him say this in an interview, the thing I love about that is I think what he's pointing to with that quote is that health is something that our body is always striving to get to, right? They'll say like the body is always looking to get to homeostasis or balance. And, think of it this way, like you cut yourself and the body will heal it. You may have a scar, but the body will heal it, right? It's always trying to get back to health. And that I think is true no matter what the body encounters. Whether it's, we ingested some food that wasn't good, then the body may decide that throwing up is a good idea. Whether we think it's a good idea or not remains to be seen. But everything that the body does, whether we deem it negative or positive or good or bad, is always in an attempt to get us back to balance. And if that's true, then the law of the law of nature behind health is that the intelligence behind life is always trying to get us back to our innate health, back to our birthright of health. And I think that that is the same whether you're talking about mental health or physical health. Regardless, the intelligence behind life is always striving to get us back to balance. And that is really, really cool. I think it's really cool. And I'm really seeing that more and more in my life and when I talk to people, how health shows up, whether we recognize it as health or not. And I admit I don't always recognize the health that's happening in my body or in my mind, but at least not in the moment. But if I look back, you know, if I look back in hindsight, I can see where my body or my mind was trying to get me back to balance, back to homeostasis. And I like the idea that understanding how a system works helps us to help the system get back to balance faster. So my journey right now, what I've been up to is learning more about how the body works. Because my journey really started a while ago, but we're going to start like in 2018. I started studying from a woman named Brooke Castillo. She runs something called the Life Coach School. And she was the first person I ever heard say that thought creates your feeling. And I studied under her and some of her coaches for quite some time, a couple of years, and took it for about as far as I could take it before I felt like something was missing. I felt like I got all the juice out of it I could get, but there was something missing and I needed to find that other something. And for me, that other something came from the three principles. When I discovered the three principles, I discovered that component that I felt was missing, which I would consider spirituality. And when I say spirituality, I'm not talking about religion, although there's no issue with that. I'm talking about the invisible something behind life that I just referred to as the intelligence behind life. the designer of the system. Some people may call that God or the universe or source or whatever. Doesn't matter what you call it. What you call it is totally personal and up to you. But the bottom line is there is this spiritual something that connects to our physical that makes us whole, right? So I discovered that in the three principles. I discovered that spiritual connection that helped me to get a better understanding of how the mind works, the very basic principles of how the mind works. And I've been in the principle community for just over 2 years, and I started to feel like there was something missing again. And what for me that seems to be is an understanding of how the body works. So you can kind of see I went from just understanding that my thoughts were creating my feelings to pulling in that spiritual component, which has been very important for me, as it turns out, which I didn't think in the beginning, but as it turns out has been, to now I want to understand more about how the body works. And it's been really interesting for me because about 2.5 years ago, I went to a local holistic doctor, and I went to her because she specialized in women's hormonal health. And I was having some physical symptoms that I thought might have been related. And I wanted to kind of get a handle. I wanted to see where I was health wise and what we could do to support, my health. And I'll be honest, I I saw her for about a year, love her to death, but I honestly didn't hear what she was telling me. Like I heard it, but I didn't hear it. Do you know what I mean? And as a result, I didn't really take it seriously. I didn't really take what she was saying seriously. I didn't understand the implications of understanding the basics of how the body works. And so about a year ago, I stopped seeing her and I stopped taking all the supplements. Part of that was a financial reason, but part of it was also because I didn't get it. I really didn't. And then in December, when I started to get the feeling that I wanted to understand more about how the body works, I came across this Dr. Sten Ekberg that I talk about in the email on YouTube. And as I listened to the first video that I listened to of his, I started to realize that everything he was saying in that video was exactly what this other doctor was telling me that I didn't hear at the time. Now, I want to make it very clear that this has nothing to do with one doctor versus another. Nothing at all. And everything to do with where my head was at, my receptivity, my openness to learning and understanding and seeing something different. Totally about me, not at all about them. They're both giving me the same information. How I was taking it was, or not taking it was, that was me. So now that I'm at the point where I'm really interested and becoming fascinated with learning how the body works, I'm really starting to put the connection together between the innate health of the body and the innate health of the mind, which makes sense if you consider what Sid Banks tells us is that it's all the same energy. He says in his book, The Missing Link, that some people think of the outside, the body, as the outside, and the mind as the inside, God or whatever, and whatever word you want to use. And he says, actually, it's all the same. It's all the same energy. So if it's true that the body is always working to come back to balance, then it's also true that the mind is always trying to come back to balance. And the things that the body does, the intelligence behind the system that understands how to adapt and regulate to the best of its ability to get us back to balance, is incredible. Absolutely mind-blowing. And if we take that same premise, that same intelligence is doing its best to bring our mind back to balance, that is also incredible. So then the question becomes, how powerful is it to understand the basic principles behind how the mind works and behind how the body works? How powerful is that? Well, I'm finding it's incredibly powerful, because by understanding the basic mechanisms and understanding how I get in the way, how I, Patty, get in the way, I can understand how to step back, let the body and the mind do what it does, right? Stop putting things in the way that are creating problems for myself. So in this interview that I just talked about, or I just alluded to, that I heard this quote by Dr. Ekberg, he uses an analogy, a metaphor, a story, however you want to call it. And basically he says that our health is like water running down a hill, right? It's always going to run down a hill because that's what water does. But we can put barriers in the way to keep the water from running. And if we understand that we're putting barriers in the way, when we remove the barriers, the water is just going to start running again. That's the, health is a law of nature. Health will always try to bring us back to balance, whether mental or physical. That innate intelligence, that innate health that's inside of us is always going to bring us back to balance when we remove the barriers. And for me, the barriers are basically misunderstandings, not understanding, innocently misunderstanding how the system works, innocently misunderstanding that the symptoms that we get, the signals that we get from our bodies, are not problems. They are just that. They're information, they're signals. They're trying to wake us up to something. So pain in the body is usually trying to wake us up to something, is, needs to be addressed, needs to be looked at, needs to be considered. And the same thing with our mind. Our bodies will give us signals and information about how we're using our mind. So take anxiety, for example. Nobody likes the feeling of anxiety. Thank goodness. The intelligence behind the design said, hey, when they're using their mind too much, too fast, when they're shaking the heck out of that snow globe, let's give them a signal to let them know that they need to put the snow globe down. Let's give them heart palpitations. Let's give them sweaty palms. Let's give them fast breathing. Not so that we can get scared and afraid of the symptoms, but that we can wake up and go, oh, I'm shaking the snow globe too much. Time to put it down. That is freaking amazing. That is so cool. But if we misunderstand the signal and we see the heart palpitations and the sweaty palms and the jittery feeling, if we misunderstand that and we see it as a problem or as something being broken, then we're trying to fix the problem, but we're not addressing the underlying cause. And the underlying cause is it's time to put the snow globe down. It's actually much simpler than trying to fix the symptoms. That's a completely different way to me. That's a completely different way in my mind, to my mind, to see symptoms and feelings and emotions and so-called negative stuff, right? It's not seeing it as a problem. It's seeing it as information, as a good thing. And as a pointer to bring us back to balance, bring us back to our birthright, our innate health, whether it be physical or mental. And so that's kind of my goal in the world, I guess. Dr. Ekberg's goal is to help people understand how their body really works so that they can better support their body and stop doing the things that are creating problems and allow their body to get back to homeostasis, back to balance. And my goal really is to help people understand the basic principles of how the mind works so that they can get back to balance and homeostasis. And that's my goal in these emails. That's my goal in all the conversations I have with people. Sometimes I do it well, sometimes not so much. But hey, I'm human. I do the best I can given where I'm at the moment, just like you do. So I guess what today's video is all about is just kind of to encourage you to recognize that sometimes the body gives us signals and symptoms that we don't particularly like, but it's doing it for a reason because it's trying to get us back to balance and maybe getting a little more curious about what the signal is telling us and what maybe we can do better or different to help that balance come about faster, whether it be mental balance or physical balance. And that was my goal today. So hopefully this is helpful. Let me know, send me an email if it's helpful or you don't understand something. I'm doing the best I can to just kind of say what comes to mind here. And sometimes it flows and sometimes it doesn't. So let me know. Let me know how it's going. Help me get better. Help me get better at doing this. I would really appreciate it. It would be, yeah, it would be much appreciated. So anyway, that being said, I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. I hope something in this video resonated with you, and I will come back next week with either an email or a video, and we'll take it to the next step. And I'll talk to you later. Have a great week. See ya.